All right, we're going to have a short lesson here, very short video, working in the beginning of chapter 5 to explain the differences between a couple terms that we use when describing functions. So we're going to talk about the difference between increasing and decreasing functions and the difference between positive and negative functions. So we'll start with increasing and decreasing. So increasing, I'll just kind of abbreviate, means that the graph is headed up. Think of it as like a positive slope. So it means your graph, if you're riding like a roller coaster and you're moving from left to right on that coaster and you are going up the coaster. So anytime your graph is something like this or something like this, those are all places where we would say it is an increasing interval. Decreasing means your graph is going down. And again, it's like the drop on the roller coaster. So instead of having that positive slope, you're going to have a negative slope. So it's going to be like that, or it's going to be like that. It can be a really sharp drop. It can be a really gradual drop. Positive versus negative is going to compare the y value of the function. So if you think about your x value is going to be what runs left to right, your y value, which we refer to as f of x, is going to be what runs up and down. So if we're looking at a graph of a function, and I just draw some function like this, any part of the graph that is above the x-axis, we would say is positive, because it has a positive y value. All the y values in the top part of the graph are positive. Any part of the graph that is below the x-axis is negative, because that is the place that it has y values that are negative. So when it's talking about positive versus negative, it's talking specifically about y values. Are they above the x-axis, meaning positive, or below the x-axis, meaning negative? So the best way to explain this in practice is to look at some Delta Math questions. So let me find that for you. Delta Math. So here's a section that asks you with your picture to talk about things like increasing, decreasing, positive, or negative. So this particular one wants to know, what do we know about the interval from B to C? So if you look on this graph, you see B at the bottom here and then C. B to C, from B to C, it's on its way up. So we would say it's increasing because it has a positive slope to get from B to C. However, the location is under the x-axis. So while it is increasing, it is actually a negative part of the function because it's below the x-axis. So you are looking for the one that says it's negative because of where it's located, and increasing because it's on its way up. So we would say negative and increasing, and submit. I don't know if they did. All they do on the picture is they just show you like that little part of the function that they're referring to. Let me show you another one. We'll do a few, and then I'll show you another way that they can ask this question. So this one wants to know, what do we know about point A to point B? So find point A and point B on the graph. From A to B, to get from A to B, you do have to go up. So since you're going on your way up, that means that it is increasing. It's like you're kind of going up the hill on the roller coaster. But then the location of A to B is always above the x-axis. So since it's above and on its way up, it is positive and increasing. Do one more of these with you. This one wants to know, what do we know about the graph from C to infinity? So anytime we're going to infinity, basically we mean the rest of the graph is going to act the same. So we're starting at C where it crosses the x-axis, and then it just keeps going. And a couple things that we notice: it is on its way up. It is moving upwards, so that means it is an increasing function. It's actually increasing pretty rapidly. The other thing we notice is that it's above the x-axis. So this is another positive and increasing interval. So let me show you one other type of problem. The other one that you'll be asked to do is you'll be asked to look at them and give information about certain parts of the graph. So here's this funky graph here. It wants to know what intervals is it decreasing. So decreasing would be anywhere where it's on its way down. So it starts off on its way down from the very beginning of the graph, and it just keeps going down, 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 down until it gets to zero. So when you write your intervals, you always write your intervals as x intervals. So you're kind of like reading the graph from left to right here. So it starts off decreasing, 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 decreasing until it gets right here, kind of at that low spot that we call it a minimum spot. Then it starts increasing, then it's on its way up until it gets to, looks like 5. And then it starts decreasing again. So when I write my intervals, There's a couple ways to write it, and it's probably easiest to write it with like the brackets and the parentheses. So we're starting at negative infinity because the very far left starts out decreasing, and then it's going to decrease until it gets to x equals 0. We're not going to use brackets with these. We're going to use a lot of parentheses with these. So we're going to have from negative infinity, which I need that. Oh, there we go. So negative infinity. I need to get my negative infinity. And then we're going to go to 0. And then we're going to join that with, let me get my picture here, from 5 to infinity, it's still decreasing. So I'm going to go to parentheses again. From 5, got the comma in there, to infinity, and submit that answer. Yes, there we go. They will accept either with or without the equal to. They will accept with or without the less than. So you could write it like this. They wrote it as x is less than or equal to 0, x is greater than or equal to 5. I wrote it differently. I said it's everything that's going from negative infinity to 0 and from 5 to infinity. You get a lot of different ways that you could write this, whether you want to write it with inequality signs or intervals, but those are the times that it's decreasing. Let me show you another one. So this one wants to know when it's increasing. So increasing, kind of mark up the graph. So it starts off decreasing. So we're starting out going down until we get to about here, which looks like it's at negative 5. And then it's going to increase until it gets to here, which looks like it's at negative 1. So that's one increasing interval. Then it starts decreasing again until looks like the low point's right around 3. And then it starts increasing the rest of the way. So I want increasing. I want any time this graph is on its way up. And you can write it a lot of different ways. I'll show you with inequality signs this time, just so you get to see another option. And you can choose how you want to write it. So from negative 5 to negative 1. So you can write it as negative 5 less than x less than negative 1. And then join that with, where do we say the other time was? It was increasing from 3 on. So when x is greater than 3 would be the other time that it increases. You'll notice they accept less than or equal to or less than signs. They would also accept brackets or parentheses. The only time they're going to get picky is if you use an infinity sign. You do not want to use brackets around that. You do need to use parentheses for that. It's probably safer to use parentheses for all of these because you know it's going to be good. So then there's the picture, increasing, increasing. I can show you one more. This one wants to know, so this is a different type of question, so I'm glad we did one more. This one wants to know when the function is greater than or equal to 0. What that means, this is asking when this is positive. So it wants to know when is the graph of the function greater than or equal to 0. So when is it on the x-axis or above the x-axis? So that's going to happen here from negative 7 to negative 4. It's going to happen here from 0 to 3, and then it's going to happen from 8 on. So we actually have 3 spots where the graph is above or equal to the x-axis. So I'm going to write, I think this is easier to write it with brackets and parentheses personally rather than the inequality sign. So I'm going to go back to that notation. So I'm going to write it. So from negative 7 to negative 4, I am going to put this in brackets. Doesn't want to hit it for me. It's not wanting to write for me. Let me try a different way here. It is not wanting to type it in for me. There we go. So from negative 7 to negative 4, negative 7, comma, negative 4. And then again, it's above the x-axis from 0 to 3. And again, 0 and 3 are where it equals that. So those count. So 0 to 3. And then again, from 8 to infinity. So I do not want to put a bracket around the infinity. So I'm going to pick this one. 8 to infinity. Infinity is one of my options. So I've got 3 intervals where it is positive. There we go. So that is how we talk about increasing and decreasing. That is really just referencing the slope on its way up or on its way down. And positive and negative is representing the location. So above the x-axis is positive and below is negative.